And welcome to another Round the Rotary with me, your host, J.P. Warren. And with us today we got Tommy Balez, the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at NexTier Oilfield Solutions. But before we get kicked off today, I'm going to have to do the Round the Rotary intro. Round the Rotary podcast is brought to you by Capital Petroleum Consultants. CPC specializes in project engineering and well site supervision in all disciplines of the oil and gas industry. Contact us through www.capitalpetroleumconsultants.com to see what CPC can do for you today. Tommy, how you doing today, buddy?
Great, thanks for having me.
Man, I'm glad you're here, and we're kicking this off early on a Monday morning. Well, it's COVID early. It's
early enough.
Early enough. It's like 9:15. Yeah, it seems like that whole early rise and grind doesn't really. It's like, I'll rise and grind whenever I kind of feel like it. You're not seeing any customers these days in their office. So, anyway, so let's get this kicked off, Tommy. Again, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. My first podcast, so this is good.
Is it really?
Yes, sir.
So you just, so I texted you if you wanted to do this, and you're like, yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Right off the bat.
I think we're all going to have to do it at some point. Everybody's going to be on a podcast.
I kind of feel like it's kind of turned that way. You're seeing a lot more podcasts kind of pop up, which is great. Which is great. You're seeing a lot more oil and gas related podcasts, which I think I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying to see it.
Yeah, it's good for your commute. Ever since Mike and Mike went away, just podcasts all the time, right?
no more sports podcasts in the morning. So, all right. Well, Tom, let's get this kicked off. Let's do what we normally do, man. Tell us about yourself.
So, grew up in San Antonio.
Okay.
Went to A&M. Coming out of A&M, I was an electrical engineer. Hated electrical engineering.
So why'd you choose electrical engineering?
Well, it's the 90s, everybody was a commuter nerd.
It was a different time.
Yeah, different time.
The bubble.
Remember the Richardson building in A&M for petroleum engineering was overflow.
Yeah.
Nobody was in there. There was no such thing as petroleum engineers in the late 90s.
Dude, I lived with a guy, I think graduated in 01 petroleum engineer. He said there was like only 20 people, maybe 20 people in their class. I may be wrong, but I remember there was a small group.
Yeah, I can't remember meeting a petroleum engineer when we were there.
No.
Everybody was electrical, mechanical, chemical, so...
And there was ID also.
Yeah, ID.
Yep. That was big in the 90s too.
Yep. So, did some interns at a chemical plant, a steel plant. Figured that's where I was headed with electrical.
So you didn't like it though, but you were still doing it.
Yeah, there was some fun stuff you could do, with control systems, things outside with chemical plants, things of that nature. But it still wasn't what kind of
sparked the fun.
No,
the Fuego de Vida.
Yeah, no, not at all. And so randomly, back in the good old career center days at A&M, I got a phone call from somebody saying, "Hey, we got your name. Would you come over and interview this Schlumberger company or Schlumberger, whatever it was back then?"
I thought it was Schlumberger.
Yeah,
too.
same here. So I went over there and interviewed, and it was an interesting interview to say the least. And then ended up hearing about them and said, "Hey, you show up, go spend 2 weeks on, 1 week off, working in the field, and you don't have to do anything with electrical engineering."
So you had no idea about the oil and gas industry before. I didn't either.
Yeah. I just showed up and was like, "This sounds pretty cool." You're from Texas, you think you know what it is, but you don't.
No, I lived in Texas. I was 8 years old. I grew up in Connecticut, so I had no idea.
No, and I guess we were at our age. We're probably the first round of the what do you call it a minute ago, a great crew change or whatever it was.
Yeah, we were the great crew change we've heard about for the past 15 to 20 years. That really hasn't happened yet until recently. That we're kind of seeing.
It sure feels like it. So I went to go work for the burger, and then one of my roommates went to go work with Halliburton, and so it slowly felt like more and more folks were starting to head that way. 02, 03.
So where were you living at the time when you were working for Schlumberger?
So I started in Abilene, then I went to Sonora, then I went to Laredo, then to Midland.
And what were you doing again?
So I was in wireline.
Okay.
So I spent Abilene and Sonora and Laredo. I was in the field, then I was managing guys in the field in Midland, and then doing like a district manager in Hobbs. And at that point, loved it. It was great. It was different. But I was, married, had our first kid, about to have the second. Had moved 5 times in 7 years.
Oh, that makes a real calm for the family.
Yeah, that's the oil field life.
Right.
And then some friends called. It seems to be the story of my life. A friend calls, or a friend asks me, or a friend tells me, said, "Hey, we got this opportunity for a startup in Houston." And this is 09, beginning of 09.
And you're in Hobbs?
In Hobbs, yeah.
Okay.
Said, "Hey, move to Houston," which was a win. My wife was happy, moving to a big city. But at the same time, it was a risky proposition because 09 was kind of like right now. It was a downturn.
Yeah.
But jumped on it. It's kind of everything in life. You got to take a chance. But I was turning 30, so I went in.
So what was it? You got this job with Schlumberger, one of the most largest oilfield service providers out there, and suddenly someone calls you and says, "Hey, startup."
Yeah.
What was your mindset with that? Why'd you jump? You have one child, one on the way. So what kind of made you be like, okay, well, I'll just move everything to Houston?
Yeah, I think it was just everybody wants, it's like, you talk about trying stuff and taking a chance. I mean,
Right.
I didn't want to be 45 going, man, I should have given it a shot.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, so we talked about it, said, hey, there's not a lot to lose. You know, I say it like it was a big risk. It was, moving to Houston where you could find a job, got a pay raise.
Right.
It was a startup funded by Shell. If you're going to be in a downturn, hey, Shell's probably a good person that's not going to run out of money.
Right.
But, it was great. Worked there for 3 years, and then...
and what were you doing?
So I was a technical manager for Throughbit. So it was kind of it was a concept of Shell patent where, in the old days when we just did vertical, you'd come down, you'd finish drilling, you'd come up 100 feet, you'd run in with your wireline tools, you'd unlock the bit, fall through the bit, get out of the way of the wireline, and as they're tripping out to run, get ready to run casing of cement, you'd log.
Okay.
And so we had gotten the tools working, but we're still working with the bit part. Well, right as the tools became commercial, that's about when I came on in 2009, horizontal wells were going insane.
Okay.
And so that was the beginning of the horizontal world, and so our business grew as people wanted to log these first horizontal wells in Mid-Con and South Texas, all of it, because we had a very unique solution that wasn't LWD, as expensive LWD, and it wasn't as expensive as TLC logging with wireline tools pushing them all the way to the bottom.
Okay.
So Schlumberger ended up buying us after 3 years, and I was like, I can't go back. I knew, not because of Schlumberger, but I knew what I would be doing. I'd be doing all the software and merging.
You would go back to a role that you're just kind of, I've already done that.
Yeah,
I've been there, done that.
Even worse, a role that I never would want to do, where it was like manuals and just making this fit into the Schlumberger
Data
mold.
entry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I took a swing on a headhunter and went to go work for a microseismic company called SpectraSeis.
And what year was this?
This was 2012.
Well, slow down. You got another big part of your life during this. I mean, you also, your undergrad's at A&M.
Yep.
And during this time, you actually pursued your MBA.
Yep. Similar thing to taking a chance. I took the GMAT straight out of college because I figured I'd go back and get my MBA. Just something. I just like this something. I really like the business aspect, and that was one of the other things about Schlumberger that interested me, and maybe the oil field as a whole, is you come in as an engineer, but you get the opportunity to do sales,
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
a business, whatever. So I was like, I want to go get my MBA. Well, I didn't want to do it online.
Right.
We kept moving so much at Schlumberger, and Schlumberger has a program that I was probably if I had stuck around in a year or two, I would have done. So we moved back. I'm sitting there at my desk one day, and I just Googled, so in 2009. Rice had a program here, U of H had a program, and Texas had a program here. And so I was like, let's do this. So I walked in and told my wife, hey, how would I go get my BA? She's like, are you insane? I'm about to have another kid. And so, as always, she's right. And we talked about it some more after the kid was born. So, that was my shot to do it.
Right.
Because I had, little kids, and she carried me through the MBA.
But you know what? I know so many people that have gotten their MBA, like their professional MBAs, like in the middle of the career with young. There's never the perfect time.
Yeah. Well, this had to have been the perfect time because it was 2 years, and the weekend after I graduated, I was coaching t-ball and driving kids to dance, and that was a window because now it's
now it's dad mode.
Yeah, my calendar, it's we jokingly have our family calendar, but if it's not in our calendars, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't exist.
It looks like we're landing at Normandy every on a Tuesday and Wednesday when my wife's going here, I'm going here.
Get out, go.
Yeah. Just who's got the food? Don't worry about it. We'll eat later.
Who's got the orange slices?
Yeah.
So
went to SpectraSeis. That was amazing. Totally new industry.
Okay.
So got to learn about that microseismic. Never done operations in Canada, Mexico. We were doing work in British Columbia in the middle of winter.
All right.
And then I'm flying to Villahermosa, Mexico to go see stuff. So
just all over the board.
Yeah, it was really neat. Met some great new people. There are
Right.
still contacts today. Just again, another industry, part of the industry that I would have never gotten to know if I had stayed around at Schlumberger or
Right.
if I had stayed at Throughbit. So that was awesome. And then did that for about 9 months, and then the CEO of C&J, Don Galva, called me. And so he, when I left Schlumberger, it was about I said my goodbye note. And then about 4 or 5 months later, he responded to it. And he said, can't believe you left. And it was just this guy, he was vice president of North America.
Yeah, so you're like, who am I?
Yeah,
why do
he
you care if I
says-
left?
And this awesome note, and I remember going home and telling my wife, this is one of those guys in my life, if he ever called,
Yeah.
I'm in. So,
There's people like that out
Yeah.
there. There's definitely certain mentors out there that I think at a certain point it's not who you work. It's not what company you work for, it's who you work for.
Yeah, and I think that sums up my entire life
Right.
and career. And so Don called with all his team, Ed and Tim and Lance, and these are all their core guys as they came up through Schlumberger. And so I'm like, well, this is a no-brainer. So I roll over there to talk.
So what year was this?
This was 12 still.
Okay.
So then they were like, hey, why don't you come over and do sales? Sales?
This is the first time you
Oh,
did sales.
Sales? Are you kidding me?
Okay.
I'm an ops guy. I'm a technical guy.
Yeah.
I never do sales. You'll be fine. We'll figure something out if it doesn't work out. So start there. I replaced a legend in the wireline world, and Harold Yazel.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Right.
you know, tons of people listening to this know Harold's name, so no big shoes to fill there.
Right.
So,
not at all.
no, not at all.
Not at
No.
all. Just that's walking.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
walking
no,
the park.
no problem. Who are you again?
Yeah.
Where's Harold?
So whenever in sales.
Yeah.
So how was that? I mean, how was that for you taking something completely different than what you're used to in the past?
I think it just was fun because it was new, and that's what
Okay.
that's why I love the oil field so much. Is just it's always new.
Right.
Like you can find something new. Give it merger, downturn, new job in a company. I mean, I've been in technical ops, sales, marketing in my 18 years.
And you're also seeing. I mean, now this day and age. I mean, there's a lot of new stuff out there,
Yeah.
and we're going to get into that a little bit. Kind of what you've been working on, what kind of NexTier is working on, but there's a lot of new stuff to get into.
Yeah, I mean, and it's for everybody who thinks the oil field is just the same old
throwing change and make it whole. No, it's. I mean, you're seeing an explosion, a revolution of technology.
Oh yeah, it's nuts. So did that, and 2 years later, I'm a sales manager.
Okay.
Did that for 3 years, and then.
Did you like that?
It wasn't as fun as straight sales, but it was still.
Right.
Part I liked was having the ability to move from just Houston, but going all over the country. We had operations in California and Rockies. Meeting people everywhere.
Yeah.
Just having a reason to get out, go see places I never. I mean, I'm sitting there in Long Beach, California, having crab legs and steak. I mean,
Sales is tough.
Yeah, it's rough. Like, well, this was a couple years ago. I think now we get mints.
And now it's a little bit different.
Yeah, a little coffee.
Arby's.
Yeah. So definitely some Taco Bell, right?
Yeah. So you enjoyed not as much as actually in the trench of the field, but it was a good experience for you, the sales manager.
Oh yeah, enjoyed that a lot.
Aspect. Okay.
Yeah. So then got back into ops 3 years ago now. Time flies. So I was in charge of all the wireline group for NexTier Solutions, C&J. So did that for a year. Then got promoted to senior vice president. Was over all of NexTier Solutions, sales, marketing, all that stuff.
Okay.
And then the merger happened. So
Okay.
here comes another curveball.
Right.
Which was Keen and C&J merging to form NexTier. Joined that team. I was I guess a year ago now is when the merger happened, and I was the vice president of the Central region. So I was over all of our operations for South Texas, East Texas, and Oklahoma.
So wait, so talk to me about this. I mean, I feel like there's a lot to cover here.
Yeah.
I mean, you went from operations to sales manager, back to operations, back to the. So I mean, is this something? Are these positions something that you strove for, or was this one of those things they just called you and said, "Hey, Tom, we kind of need this role filled. I mean, you got operations, you got sales. Let's plug you into this." I mean, what kind of helped you get these roles? I guess as the company evolved.
I think just being willing to take on a new challenge. Every one of them was sometimes less than ideal.
Right.
How the situation occurred.
Were you vocal about that to your mentorship to your manager?
I think so, and I think to Don and Ed and Tim and Lance, their credit, they're old school Schlumberger guys, and
Right.
they feel a well-rounded person who's seen all those things is the best type of
Okay.
employee, and it helps with retention. Like you want to see people move around. I mean, because I don't know anybody now who wants to sit in the same job for their whole life.
Right.
And so I think that's what it was. So every time it happened, it was a promotion typically. Obviously there was a pay raise, that was
Right.
good. But to me, it was always just a new challenge,
Right.
something different. And so I think as long as people are willing to do that keeps your career lively. That taking risks, taking chances. That's really what makes things.
Okay.
Makes this life interesting.
Right.
Because if you're just going to sit around and
Do the same thing day in, day out.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Groundhog
Yeah,
Day.
don't-
Next thing you know, it's me. You're always chasing that next paycheck, chasing that next promotion. It's got to be about to me. It's got to be about the current day and the challenges of that day versus 3 years on with this, 5 years on with this, 10 years.
Yeah.
Because you're never gonna be satisfied.
and it's never going to go the way you think.
No, it never will.
When I graduated 18, 19 years ago, it was, I'm going to go work in Nigeria and do this and do that and go see the world or Schlumberger, and I got to see West Texas and South Texas, and then ended up in Houston for the last 11 years.
Yeah.
So nothing goes the way you plan.
So since the merger, you've taken on. Let's talk about since the merger to now, kind of what your roles have been, and kind of I want to talk to you about kind of where you're at now, because from your LinkedIn profile, you got into this marketing and sales, the VP of marketing and sales during this dumpster fire.
Yep, that's a great way to describe it.
So let's back it up. Talk to me about when the merger happened and kind of your roles until today.
So everything was going well. We were just figuring out how NexTier was going to work, how people's position was, and so I had an awesome team. We're working. We didn't exactly have the stupendous. We weren't the Permian. We had South Texas, East Texas, and Mid-Con, and not exactly.
Throw some duct tape on. Make it work.
Yeah, figure it out. And things were going well, and then March hit.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. We were in Disney World for spring break.
All right.
So we land. We'd done the whole wipe down. The plane's never been cleaner. Flying Southwest. We're cleaning the plane to land. My phone explodes with we need to rebid this. We need to do that. And the COVID stuff's going on, and so all hell's breaking loose. Obviously,
that's kind of when the apps fell off and everyone started going panic.
Yeah, everybody has their probably story of that week.
Yep.
OPEC flipped the taps on. Got in the price war with Russia. COVID's going nuts, killing demand, and I'm sitting in the line at Cinderella's Castle ordering toilet paper on Amazon, and trying to rebid the next
trying to have fun. No, it's okay, babe. I've worked a little bit on this vacation.
It sure made the lines go quick.
Right.
The 2-hour line was only an hour. It was instantaneous to me, right? So so we came out of that. We all went in quarantine. Spent a month and a half. Doing all the stuff that none of us like to do, downsizing, high grade. Nothing like sitting in your pajamas at your house with a cup of coffee, staring at Excel sheets with people's names on it.
Everyone's got their memories from that time.
Just looking at it.
And it's still kind of going on these days, a little bit.
I think maybe in some respects, for us at least, we're seeing a turn.
You're definitely seeing a turn on LinkedIn. There's a lot more job postings, a lot more of that. But let's kind of get in that a little bit, because you have a couple good points I want to bring up.
Yeah.
So keep talking to me about, COVID hit.
So the COVID hits, so we get through all the hard part. Now it's like, what does this company look like? So we'll get a phone call about 7:45 from our CEO and our senior vice president office, like, hey, your region's going away. I'm like, yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need all these levels of management. We want you to kind of work with the senior VP's right-hand man, do planning, help with meetings. But let's take this opportunity to put a lot of people in positions they probably wouldn't have had time or
give them a little stretch assignment.
Yeah, not even that. More of let's put a lot of good people on a lot of good jobs to do the stuff we've always wanted to do. Now we have time to do it.
Okay.
It was very, it was a great plan from the management team there to just say, look, let's get all the stuff we've been talking about for 3 years. Let's just get it done.
Let's just do it.
Let's get into it. Let's get it done. Let's put all these people. I was just one of many on projects like our digital implementation. Our equipment health monitoring, blowing up our next hub, all these things.
But you went from an operations role to the VP of Sales and Marketing.
So I took a little detour, and then in that role, I got a lot of exposure with the CEO, the C-suite, and I was kind of just wearing a bunch of hats. And about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, my CEO had breakfast with me, and he's, hey, have you got free time? I'm like, of course.
Wait, this is a month and a half ago?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's like, I want you to help me out with some marketing stuff.
Okay.
So slowly we started working on that, and then one day he's like, yeah, this is going to be a new full-time job.
How does it feel for you?
It's good.
Do you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, it's fun, it's different, and what I like about it, it's high level, big. My favorite classes in my MBA were strategy and marketing.
Okay.
So sitting with him, sitting with the senior team there, figuring out, okay, what's our strategy at NexTier? What are we selling?
What's our brand?
Yeah, what makes us? Because if you think about marketing's the fish. If you're fishing, it's the bait and the hook. It gets your attention. The salesman reel it in.
I kind of feel like marketing these days, especially with everything going on with all this social distancing, people being at home, people not being in their offices, it's not just, hey, boom, here's our product, boom, it's more, and you can speak to this obviously, but it's more about getting the company culture or getting the company's story out there, which is something I think people have done before, obviously, but I think in the oil field, we have taken that approach. I think it's relatively new. What is our story? Who are we? What is our brand? What does our company stand for?
Yeah, I think the oil field stinks at marketing.
Right.
I think
Are you seeing it get better?
I think so. More people are focused on it. I think too many people think marketing is just posting pictures on LinkedIn.
Right.
It's, as you said, very, very, very well. It's a story.
Yeah.
What's your story? What does your company do different? What does your company Why do I use them?
So how was that? I mean, I guess a month and a half, 2 months ago, going from this role to I guess helping out with marketing, or now actually running marketing for NexTier. I mean, so how? I mean, I guess how does your brain kind of switch from okay, well I'm trying to run this region or run this division, to switching over to marketing? Okay, what's our story? How do we tell our story? What content do we put out there?
Yeah. Well, it's just working with people and talking to customers. Ever since doing my MBA in sales, your mind changes.
Yeah.
It's not just okay, how do we get stuff done? It's like, why is a customer using us? What's the story I'm going to tell in these meetings? What's the story I'm going to tell to our investors? That's the part that is like, what makes us different?
Right.
Because as our CEO said, how are we going to win? If we're going to just win by being like everybody else, we might as well just shut the doors.
And you won't these days.
No, you won't. I mean, if you're just going to be like everybody else, buying the same tools, the same equipment, low bidding. I mean, we're all going to be out of business.
Right.
This is we may just last a little longer, but we're not going to survive, and we're definitely not going to all make money for this company, and that's our job.
So your strategy right now in marketing is to, and I kind of wanted to speak to kind of your ideas and strategy on marketing, because I think it's such a unique challenge and an opportunity right now to actually kind of provide the content to the end user or show who you are. I mean, talk about your strategy about that once you stepped in those shoes. Yeah,
most of it just how do you get your message out. I think we were starting to form after about a year, like what is our story?
Right.
And I think we had a lot of great things that we could finally put out to the market that we've been working on in the background. But kind of our conversation earlier, how do you get that message out? Like I think this is perfect. It's something new.
This is an avenue.
It's an avenue, and more people are using it. I mean, 3 years ago, I would never have been driving to work, listening to a podcast. Now I do it every day.
I never thought I'd be doing something like this. Yeah.
And then, the social media aspect, I mean, that's how people get most of their stuff.
Now, did you always believe that aspect of the social media side of it?
I didn't until I was helping with a bond election for the school district out in Cypress.
Okay.
And then I was able to finally see all the metrics available. And as a math nerd and engineer, like you can go in and see
what
all
works,
kinds of stuff. Yeah,
work.
it's insane how much data is available.
Right.
I remember our prof in 12, probably 11. He was our statistics prof, and he worked for so all these MBA professors, right? That teaching is fun for them. It's their side job.
Yeah.
So his full-time job is a consultant for Google.
Okay.
And he's talking about stuff, and even back then they're like, yeah, a credit card company can go through and see your purchases, and with a 90+% probability in 2011 tell you if you're about to get divorced.
Really?
Yeah, these are the kind of stats he would throw out to us, and you're like, oh, okay, so data's important.
Yeah.
Data's important, okay.
Duly noted. Like freakonomics. Depending on what they're going to buy, they're going to get divorced.
Exactly, right? And so, fast forward to now, so much of the conversation we're doing is talking about digital, but also just talking about getting that message to people in front of them. And with COVID, with the nature of kind of the generations, the generation or two behind us.
People are using memes. People are using social networking platforms
like
a lot more.
I didn't think I'd be 41 being the old fart saying but back my day nobody.
Hey, these memes hit with you kids.
Yeah,
I know.
But and the hard part too is with COVID, you can't get in front of people.
No.
Like this is sales to me. This is marketing. Is talking, and you get, maybe if you get a Zoom meeting, you're lucky. Most of the time, it's trading emails, and
a lot of people are burnt out from Zoom these days.
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, even if there's an avenue that people have used, such as Zoom or Microsoft Teams or something like that, it's kind of one of those things you still have to be innovative and adaptive, because a lot of the things that were working at the beginning of COVID aren't kind of working right now.
No, and it's constantly changing, and it's interesting what messages are changing too. First it was just what's going on in the UFO. Now it's like, what are you guys doing different?
Right.
Like we just posted, we try to do a couple posts a week on social media, kind of across the platform,
right.
Seeing what people, and we just did one for, our environmental messaging, and man, that was probably one of our biggest hits.
Right.
Which.
So you're trying to gauge what kind of, what people are listening
and that's what's awesome. LinkedIn, Facebook, those are probably the two main ones that give metrics, but
right.
I mean, you can really understand what's getting your people. It'll tell you what their background is, tell you where they're at, tell them what their titles are.
Right.
And then the next step from that will be really targeting that. Like I remember when we were doing that same advertising campaign for the bond. I called this guy in Austin, and he's an advertising guy for Google, Google Ads, and he's like, oh yeah, we can target, every person with a computer at every high school in your area to say go vote. And I'm like, seriously? Oh yeah, we do that. We go. You tell me the demographic. You tell me the town. You tell me the addresses. I can make sure that anybody coming up with an IP address there, it'll pop up on their screen.
Okay, so a little more targeted.
Yeah, so I think that's the next step is figure out what makes the most sense. You know, ads don't really work like print ads. No. Nobody reads magazines, nope. And you know, there's only a few conferences that really matter anymore. You know, I enjoy going to conferences.
I do too. But I mean, you're seeing the attendance of those not even before COVID.
Yeah, they were starting to
dwindle, and it became a very oilfield service focused. I felt.
Yeah, we saw each other and no customers. It was
exactly
good money well spent.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that's really been the big change in just the messaging. It's like, I mean, if you're just posting pictures of your company alive and well in the oil field, then that's not really gonna get the clicks.
Right.
It's what's your digital messaging. I think one of our biggest posts recently is we've got a partnership with, or we're going to start partnering with Corva.
Yep, saw that. And that's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
so Corva's been.
Yeah, that was on the post.
They've been hot on the radar lately.
Yeah, it's they're pretty hot off the rails on that one, and we're a good compliment because we've done all the hard work at NexTier on the it was actually the two companies separately. So Keen did a great job on building their digital infrastructure on the software, and then C&J had a hardware company that did all of our frac controllers, and so when you slam them together, now we have one uniform frac system that we control. Yeah, and then you plug in something our customers love. I mean, why would you fight your customers on it? Like if they're already using it.
That's the thing. It's like if they're using it, if the end people are using it, don't try to fight them to shove something else down their throat.
Yeah, well, they're not going to use it.
No, they won't.
And they really don't want us to be pushing that kind of stuff. They want to use who they want to use, and then you plug and play.
So wait, so during these times, I kind of want like. So how are you? I mean, you stepped in this, a month and a half, 2 months ago. I mean, I guess kind of what's been your approach? I mean, okay, boom, you're over all the marketing, you're over all this. I mean, so what are you communicating? I guess what's been important for you to communicate?
I think just the future of where we're going.
Okay.
Like, we're not no one's gonna survive this, as I've said multiple times, by just doing the same old stuff.
Right.
And so, to me, the messaging is, the ESG stuff, the digital stuff. The same safety numbers.
You kind of started talking about that. I mean, you said back in January. You were telling me this back in January. ESG was kind of a little buzzword.
Yeah. So I think so. The social governance part of that. It's always been good business. The S&G, so environmental, social governance. S&G's always been good business.
Right.
Hiring diverse workforce, being safe, giving back to the community, having a board of directors that's independent. All those things. That's nothing new. But the environmental aspect, all of a sudden, man, it's taken off like crazy. And that was.
Are you seeing a lot of that from the customers?
Oh
and
yeah,
service
it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And so the story from January was right after we merged. Robert, our CEO, brought everybody to the Woodlands. He's giving this huge presentation of the future of the company and all of the there was probably 100 of us there. So it was interesting. And then there was one slide on ESG. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Okay, I've never heard. Do you guys know what this is? I don't know what this is. And then the next thing you know, it's my life.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a new website out, and if you look at it, you'll be like, that's an oilfield company. Like, how would you? It's not. You don't roll up and it's a frac company. It's a picture of a lake and trees. It's crazy.
You know what though? We've done such a poor job as an industry, though. I mean, it's usually a reactive approach. Like, oh well, but we did this, but we also build schools. We do such a reactive approach on communicating our industry's ESG. I mean, I think it's excellent. The fact that you're kind of reshaping, like this isn't oil and gas service company website, but it looks completely different.
And people have to understand, I think no industry is better and more in tune with the environment than the oil field. Like if you go to our pads, our locations, compare what we're doing to a strip mine for the car batteries we're putting into Teslas.
Oh, dude, there was one story I had when my operators, they had to shut down the entire operation because I think there was like a turtle on location. They're like, all right, shut her down. Yeah.
What is it back in, was it Hobbs? I think it was Prairie chicken mating season. That was the one that always got me. We had to shut down operations on federal lands because of Prairie chicken mating season.
Really?
And I thought it was like, the old blue skyhook joke from the bonfire days. I thought, no. Come on guys, you're pulling my leg. Prairie chicken mating season. And it's serious stuff. The oil field's been pretty in tune, and I think we just, like you said, our messaging stinks.
Yeah.
Everybody just thinks we're out there spilling, it's 1920 and we got a canal running down where the
just throw anything. I'll throw all the waste in there and just bury it and go.
Yeah. So it's but it's huge. And especially now it's you're not going to be able to get money from investment groups. People aren't going to want to invest in your companies. I think J.P. Morgan is who we were talking about.
Yeah.
They just announced that this they're not going to invest in people who aren't following the Paris Climate Accords.
Right.
there's ESG scorecards that are posted for your investability.
So right now, it makes
Yeah.
it's the path moving forward.
And you got to have a story to tell. It's easy to say you're ESG focused, but you got to be able to say, hey, here's real numbers. Here's what
why.
we're doing.
Here's how.
And so we again kind of fell into it. The Keene side of the merger, they had been burning gas up in the Northeast and in other areas, and they'd gotten into this because their customers forced them to do it because
Right.
it made economic sense. And I mean, that's our message is ESG works when it makes sense for the business.
Yeah.
Like environmentalism works best when it makes best for the business. If we can cut our cost, if we can do right by the environment, if we can help the community and stuff, it's good business. It will catch fire like night. Just think of just what I was saying. In January, I didn't know what it was. Now my whole life is business.
And that's one of those things too. I mean, you are hearing that more, and also you want to be behind the times
Nope.
too. It's like, oh well, we just started focusing on ESG in 2021. It's like, well, every other company's been doing it for 8 months now.
Yeah.
You're just focused on it now.
And I mean, and it's just on the equipment side. I mean, it's years out to get this equipment. Like it's
Yeah.
just to get it set up. And same with digital. You can't just walk up and be a
No.
plug into Corva or
Uh-huh.
plug into somebody. Like you have to have what's ready to go, and that's what our customers are going to expect. I mean, I think you guys were talking on the pod I was listening to this morning with was it Josh?
Josh.
Yeah, he was saying the same thing. I mean, Google, Android. I mean, these are what people are. That's why Corva's so great. It's a bunch of guys who store at Google. It's tech guys.
And this is going to be the funds that everyone's competing for.
And that's what we're talking about is, we do an awesome job on the frac side,
Right.
on the completion side, on the drilling side. I mean, we're drilling wells faster than we ever have. We're completing wells faster than we ever have, doing all kinds of great things. But at some point, it's harder and harder to get the next, the next little percentage point increase. And you're going to need things like digital and being able to burn gas and be able to work as an integrated service company and have all these because it's not, everybody hated the fact that, Schlumberger blue on blue,
Yeah.
Halliburton red on red. But to make that next step, you're going to have to be connected. And how you can connect, the NexTier frac crew with a mom and pop wireline company.
It's got to be something seamless.
With a logistics company coming out of, because my buddy knows a guy who knows a guy. I mean, you can't do it. Right now we have AI running our logistics group, and it's ramping up and ramping down the demand and the dispatching of sand trucks based on how we're fracking.
Really?
And it's almost like it's probably a bad analogy. It's almost like Uber for sand trucks. It's basically all these independent contractors get on our system, and we pull them as we need them. We turn them off as we need them. We can monitor what they're doing, and we can fire them instantaneously off this thing if we don't like the way they're being safe. I mean, this is where it's going, and if
You know what though? This is kind of what's something. I mean, everyone wants kind of that Uber for their industry.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Everyone's been talking about that, and I remember my previous role. I remember we were talking about that in 2015.
Yep.
With a customer. This is gonna be the Uber for vacuum trucks. But that's things are moving that way.
Oh, and it's so fast, and it's so amazing. Like you look at this. I mean, Corva just blows my mind with the stuff they do. That's
Yeah.
why but you're sitting there on their app, and it's just like, okay, guy gets they put in these parameters of, this is a problem, maybe a potential kick. Boom, there it is, and alarm goes off on their phone. They're sitting there at a bar.
That's right there.
It's funny how I was at this event last week, and I was talking to their COO, and she's like, yeah, it's amazing our sales pitch. We don't have to do anything. Like guys are sitting around at bars, and they get this ding, and they're looking at it, and they're like, oh. And the guy next to me's like, what is that? Show me what that is. I want that. I want that on my phone. And compared to what having people on location and all this other stuff,
relying on the phone call when it's not
it's
ready.
instantaneous.
How are you staying on top of all this emerging technology? Because it's such a challenging job right now to communicate who you are as a company,
Mm-hmm.
and how you're responding to this, and how you're going forward. I mean, how are you staying on top of staying in front of all this cool technology or industry what am I trying to say?
Yeah, no, I get
industry topics.
Yeah.
Technology, the forefront of the industry.
I mean, I think everything. We win when our customers win.
Right.
And so if we have an amazing sales staff, and they see our customers, they talk to our customers, and they're the ones driving a lot of this. I mean, we work on stuff to try to help our business be more profitable, be more efficient.
Right.
If that aligns, great. If they come and say, hey, because we were about to go develop our own visualization platform. It's been millions of dollars. And the Corva guys, we got hooked up because 2 of our customers are using it.
Yep.
But their sales manager worked with me at the microseismic company, and we were talking about it. And it's like, hey, what are you doing now? And, you know, he's a super smart guy, and he's telling me, I'm like, that's amazing. Is that actually going to work? And he said, yeah, we're doing it now in drilling, we're doing it now here, we're doing it. I mean, it was just
talking.
Yeah, and that's, like, again, the story of my life is just, you know, I know somebody because of something, and then you know, he calls me or they call me, or I have a connection between the two or three people, and that's how business is done, that's how connections are done. And it's as much technology is involved now, it feels like this is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
I feel, well, technology obviously makes things move faster, and obviously makes the world feel a little bit smaller, but I think that's something that's so crucial that a lot of people brought up. It's even in times like this, work your networks.
Yeah.
Expand your networks. Keep your networks alive. You know, pick the phone up, call people that, you know, if you're a salesperson, call a customer when they don't have a rig.
Yep.
Check on them.
Yeah, one of my best friends, he was out of work for 4 or 5 months, and
Yeah.
a friend of a friend of a friend called me and said, nope, but I got the perfect guy.
Right.
He's got a job 8 days later.
That's how it works.
And it's amazing how fast that's going, and it's so much fun because it's changing.
Yeah.
And when we come out of this thing, because, you know, next year's not going to be that much better. I mean, we're probably 22 before we get back to January's levels, which wasn't exactly a party back then. I mean, you know, so it's sorry to be the.
Thanks for making me depressed.
Yeah.
First off, Q4 in the oil field is always slow.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we have something to look forward to.
Yeah, so yeah, but if you take this time to fix what you're doing, if you're in that position, hopefully, you can come out of this just game busters.
And how much? And you know, I completely agree with you. I think if companies, and not even companies, I think if individuals,
Mm-hmm.
you know, take the step and say, okay, you know, what can I do? What can I be? What can I do different? How can I? I guess start working out this muscle of something. Maybe it's financials, maybe it's data analysis, whatever it is. What can I do?
I mean, you know, opportunity comes from crises a lot of times.
Right.
And you know, just look at my story. I was pretty negative and depressed after, you know, I get a phone call saying, hey, you're going from running a division to, hey, I did a lot of PowerPoint and Excel sheets after that to help the business. But you can either, you know, you can be frustrated and down and pissed off, or you can get to work and try to show, and eventually it comes, you know.
Yeah.
Eventually people see good people and find them homes, and to our credit of our management team, you know, they've said it multiple times, I mean, they could have cut even deeper, but they did it because they knew it would impair them forever.
Right.
So they kept a lot of guys. I mean, I shouldn't have had a job. Like if it would, I mean, they should have just cut my whole division out, shipped me out.
That's it.
I mean,
but they want to retain. They want
me and a bunch of other
talent,
people. Yeah, and I appreciate that. You know, so it was a short window, but in April, none of us knew how long this was going to be. Like, I mean, it's not great, but it's way better than it was in May.
Still stinks, but it's getting better.
Yeah, and so and I think it's getting, you know, we're seeing a lot of it. You know, we've brought all of our furloughed people back, starting to see, you know, new hires actually who are either, you know, we're calling people that we used to know, and I mean, so that's advice as well. Just don't give, if you want to stay in the oil field, keep calling and checking in, because I mean, we'll go from, you know, not needing anybody to needing 50 people in a day. Yeah. Just 1 or 2 jobs click.
And you're not bothering anyone by checking in.
No, call your guys, and you know, you want to be that first phone call for your old manager. You want to be that first phone call when there's an opportunity. And if you're just sitting at home, like you said, not trying to get better, not broadening your horizon, I mean, it won't get better.
Yeah, you're not gonna. Someone's not gonna think of you. It's like, oh, Tommy, God, that's right. We talked, and he's not doing anything, but we spoke last week. I'll give him a call.
And it's easy for me to say I didn't lose my job, but at the same time, I know that I see that story happening every day.
You do. You see it all the time.
Like between helping some friends out find a job, from watching us try to hire people back to go run wireline trucks or run frac crews or coil units. I mean, we're calling guys left and right. You know, hey, what about this guy that used to work with us? Or the customer's like, hey, is that crew still available? Let's get all of them back. And boom, new crew. They're all hired back.
That's what it is. Just stay on the phone, stay relevant, text, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, whatever we do technology-wise, it's still people. Right. What's fun to me about the technology is that we might actually get back to being engineers, to being like problem solvers, to doing what we used to do instead of filling out Excel spreadsheets. You know, technologies like Corva and our MDT software, you know, hardware and software, and you know, our NexHub allow people to go solve problems, make things better instead of just sitting there. You know, okay, man, I got to make this wellbore diagram. You know, it's doing it because this guy needs it and this guy needs it, and that's what my life is.
Are you enjoying the fact that you're coming into this new company, this new a year old, this new company in this new day and age? Not only that, you got technology, you have Corva that you're kind of teaming up. You have all this stuff to communicate to customers. Are you enjoying it? I mean, what challenges are you facing?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think the hard part is, getting the message out. That's my job.
Right.
And we had a town hall last week, and that's what I said my job was. It was getting that story to not only our investors, our customers, but to our people. Like, I know all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pumped. I'm excited.
Yeah.
But there's guys down. Yeah. There's guys down the, even in our own company that have no clue what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We gave a sales presentation last week to a customer in Oklahoma City, and he's like, "Yeah, that's really cool. I wish I'd known that. I would have been telling her." I mean, that's what we got to do more of, and hopefully, the excitement works its way down to more of my company, and then
Spreads from there.
Yeah, as I said to the guys, when my little turn in the town hall was, if we don't believe the story, our customers won't.
Right.
And I think what we're selling is something that will resonate. We just got to get it out there to the market, and we got to get it to our employees, and we want to be the place that people come, because when this thing kicks off, because of our digital stuff, because of our ESG focus, because of what we've done with assets, we're not just sitting assets on the side of the fence, just cannibalizing them just to get things going. We've got GPS on them. We've got them hooking up to pumps, to test tanks to constantly monitor. We got a high pot manager over that whole process. It's not just hope and pray for this thing to kick off. We're preparing for 22. Hopefully it comes sooner, but if it's 22, we'll be ready to go.
But disseminating all that knowledge between your not only the internal customers, the ambassadors next year, but also the external. Yeah.
And then our customers themselves. I mean, they're going through the same process internally. They're fighting their battles. You got supply chain who's defending that they want it their control.
Yep.
Then you got these executive vice presidents who see this like Corva type technology where the guys can go from sorry about that.
So the first time it's happened.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm not the most important thing going on right now. I get that.
So I'll call the salesman afterwards and say, "Hey man, you interrupted my podcast. What are you doing? You should know these things."
Make sure you say around the Rotary.
Yeah.
I need to spread that word.
Fair enough, but it's. Oh no, we were interrupted. What were we talking about? So we lost my train of thought.
We were talking about, I guess, discussing this with the internal customers, prepping everything.
Yeah, I think our external customers, like, there's somebody up high who is, trying to do what he wants to use NexTier or Schlumberger, Halliburton, this whole integrated, but there's so many people challenging him because it's new. And we're doing something, I think, with technology that we've never been able to do is like, okay, a decision here in drilling has this effect all the way to production. And we're going to be able to connect those dots if you get the right companies and the right people together, and stop being defensive and trying to protect yourself, protect your job. You're going to have to grow with the business.
And that's the thing, though. I feel like in the oil field, I mean, there's a lot of the knowledge like, well, we haven't needed this. I don't need this technology, or oh, that's not the way we've done it, so I don't need that technology. And I feel like the technology side of our industry needs kind of the most push to kind of be implemented into operations, when in reality it's kind of a no-brainer. It's like, you want the technology there. So that's kind of the challenge right there, is showing, like, because no one wants to be the first user of technology. Nobody wants that.
Nope.
So that's going to be a challenge for you to kind of, but it's also one of those things where you actually do have to provide the information. You do have to promote from within and tell the customers about what great technology advances y'all are doing, and how you're going to make their job easier, and actually so they can execute better decisions.
And it's the same message, but it's how you deliver it, and that's the key to marketing, right? Like,
yeah.
What we're selling to the executive vice president is that domino train. What I'm selling the guy who's a completion engineer is, look, man, I'm not trying to take your job. I'm trying to make you better at your job.
Yeah.
Allow you to be what you went to college for, right? Hey, Mr. Supply Chain guy, I'm not trying to get rid of your job. I'm trying to help you get away from just all you do is Excel sheets. Understand who is the best performing provider. Do the stuff you went to college for, what you learned in your industry. Instead of, because if everybody views this as, hey, my job's going away, then whatever. But,
well, the people who have that mindset, they're going to hold on to their fort.
Yeah.
They're not going to let anything else in. They're going to hold on to their fort. They're not going to, I guess, disseminate information to their teams. They're just going to kind of just dig in. Yep.
And this thing's never going to be better. But if we don't, if we don't fix it now, we're all going to be feeling it'll be $5 gas again.
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few people who remember that, but it wasn't that long ago where $3.50, $4 I was filling up in Midland. And that's life. I mean, and that's probably the best thing for our industry is we've gotten away. We're more of a supply and demand. Instead of focused on production, we're now going to be focused on cash flow and bringing back to our company. I mean, that's the best thing that's happened in the oil field in the last 20 years is that if the investment community says, here's our focus on cash flow, here's our focus on ESG, y'all better make this work or we're going somewhere else with our money.
Yeah, now it's our time to kind of show that we can operate as, individual companies operating for profit.
It's amazing. It's a crazy thought. Hey, businesses that have to make money.
Getting business for profit?
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
I'm not here for the flip. Right?
Exactly. Flips, that's not happening anytime soon.
No.
Tell me about your work. I mean, I kind of was going through your pro, and you do some community work.
Yep.
I want to talk about that. This Cypress ISD.
Yep. So I'm married with 4 kids.
Right.
So we've got 13 to 5. So I'm gonna have kids in school for a long time. And so just like everything, a friend said, hey, could you come to these lunch meetings? We have senators from the state. We have reps come in and talk just to give us their take, and then we call their offices and we give them feedback. And that was what it's called the Cypress ISD Community Leadership Committee.
Okay.
And so it's basically an activist group, but it's an arm of parents and teachers that call the state legislature to advocate for public education.
Get more involved. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was just my friend Julie Heineman called me. So I said, sure, I'll come. So 2 years later, she's the chair, I'm the assistant chair. Then she goes to get elected to the board that become a trustee. So now I'm the chair. So leading this group, when 4 years ago I was just like, I don't even know who my rep is. Like, politics, but very few people know how.
Not much. I mean, most people know politics on the macro level, right?
So it was just, here I am. I'm involved with public ed. Now this week, tomorrow I'm hosting, moderating a debate between House District 135 between 3 candidates.
Really?
Yeah. People.
That's such a unique thing to get into.
Yeah.
Especially if you have been involved in local politics or anything like that before, but. Again, what drove you to do that?
Well, it's like everything. I think, if you don't get involved.
Right.
To me, it's kind of like, what's the old saying? People hate it, but if you don't vote, don't bitch.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get the opportunity. I don't want to hear it.
Right.
If you didn't vote, just go. But the same thing, like, you can't complain about stuff if you don't get involved. And I didn't have any complaints, but it was super interesting about how disincentivized public education is versus charter schools. And I'm not against charter schools, but I think it should be a fair playing field. Like, charter schools, they get to pick and choose their students. Public ed, they don't. Like, they have to take all students, which I think is American, right? Like, everybody should be getting an education. Charter schools can go get public funding for their buildings with no taxpayer approval, and public schools can't.
Okay.
Charter schools get more dollars per student.
So different playbooks.
Oh yeah, and totally different. Now if a charter school's right, public, private school's right for your kid, great. You want to homeschool your kids, great.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be able to benefit and the others be penalized, because the majority of people in Texas, especially underserved people, ESL students, poor kids, like, that's their only option.
Yeah.
And so that really kind of struck me, and if they feel I can help, I'm happy to do it. And we've managed to, with our little group, mostly from the efforts of the group, nothing I've done.
Right.
I kind of just make the meeting minutes and then make sure food gets there. But we definitely have gotten the voice. We had Dan Patrick come talk to us, the lieutenant governor. We've had all of our state reps come through. So you're making an impact when those guys are scheduling you. And it's the same way I got into being an elected official. I got a friend of mine who's on my hunting lease. He's like, man, we really need somebody on our board for our fire department. Would you think about running? And so I talked to him. I was like,
so
sure.
Did you have any idea about fire? Really?
No, I think he told me some of it, and they're like, hey, what we need is similar. We don't need you to know it. We need you to just help us run it like an organization.
Okay.
And so I ended up running. It was 2,600 people voted for me. It's a super small, tiny election, but I was a board member. First meeting we go to, they made me president of the board. So I'm like, just jump in with both feet.
Wow, yeah.
And, and then you start digging, I knew what I was getting into to some degree, but you don't really realize it till you're looking at it when we've got, fire stations from inside Beltway 8 on 290 all the way out to almost Waller.
Okay.
So we got 13 stations, and it just
different population.
Oh yeah.
Station different, but yeah.
Some stations that were built last year, some stations that were built in the '70s. Like it's all kinds of different. But it's like running a business.
Do you enjoy this?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of like we were talking about before. Jamie and Maisie, their podcast. When Jamie was telling me about it, it was, hey, people who are high potential, who are going to go places and like they like to be busy and like to be involved in stuff. I mean,
taking on new stuff, new challenges.
You just started to do a podcast.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of taking a life of its own.
Yeah. I mean, and getting involved in your community, like there's no better feeling than seeing that accomplishment.
Right.
Like just being a part of something. And I mean, I challenge everybody to get involved. Pick your politics, pick whatever. What I like about mine is both are kind of independent.
Yeah.
Like I'm supporting the school district. I'm not supporting an R or D.
Yeah.
I was elected to a board that there's no primaries, so it's very much just okay. Here's what's in the best interest of this.
It takes more of the holistic approach versus what's best for my camp versus your camp.
Yes.
Right.
There's debates, but the debate is very small. What's best for this. And so we try to be agnostic on both. Like I'm, not a declared R or D when I ran for that election. We have Democrats and Republicans come talk to us in our meetings with the school districts.
So how did you run?
Were
you knocking on doors? It
was. Speaking of technology, it's crazy now. So a friend of mine, who's a friend of mine, but a guy that helped run our campaign. There was 3 of us that ran together. So it was 3 spots. We kind of did a joint campaign. None of us had ever run. We're all businessmen up in Cypress and businesswomen.
I think that's pretty wild.
Yeah, and
I really do.
So we just go do it, and we get some pointers from these guys who've done it before. But it's kind of like you guys go do it. We pulled the rolls from like the last 3 elections and did played with Excel. So I guess my engineering degree helped out by being able to play Excel. And found who were likely voters. And then they have apps now. You plug in these addresses in, and you get out of your car and you say, I'm here, and it shows you the walking map of how to walk to these people's houses.
Really?
Yeah. And so, I mean, the day of the election, I'm over in Barker, Cypress, and 290 over in one of those areas, and I'm knocking on doors, and people are like, oh, I'll go vote. And then I'm getting phone calls from somebody at the polling station like, they just said they talked to some weird dude who was walking around knocking on doors for an election. And I was like, yeah, I did. Sweet. I'm going to keep going, And it's old school campaigning. Just knocking on doors, especially for an election that no one knew of. I mean,
but that's pretty exciting though. It's like not only are you doing the old school, but you're actually using the technology tools.
And it's just getting more and more like and then that was a year later. I'm helping with this bond election for Cy-Fair. That's the only way schools can pay for new stuff. And that's where I was learning about Facebook advertising and LinkedIn advertising and Google Maps. Google Ads, that stuff. And it's just so much stuff that I just barely know a little bit about that no one knows about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I started learning about the metrics and the profiling.
But I mean, that's pretty interesting for your current role now next year. That kind of ties in.
Yeah, it worked. It's just hand in hand. So there's some sort of fate involved in life as it is. So and everything's just about like the commissioner for the fire department. Talk about just randomness. We got assigned to the same T-ball team, the T-ball team that I got on right after my MBA, and we were finishing up the season at the party, and I was leaving from that party to go to my deer lease that I'd just gotten on.
Right.
And I said, man, we're having, he's like, he was asking me about it. He's like, yeah, we're having hell. We can't find this 8th person. He's like, well, I need a deer lease. I'll get on it. So he gets on our deer lease and brings a couple of his buddies every time, and then he's the one who comes over to my living room 4 years later, 5 years later, and he's like, hey, so we need somebody to kind of help this and that. I'm like, that's just signing up for 6-year-old T-ball. But
that's how it works.
That's
how it works.
I mean, and that's, I don't know what you like to do. That's why I love reading history books, because life is way more interesting than fiction. Just hearing these moments in time where this famous person could have almost died, or he met this person that took his career to the left and made him who he was. I mean, it's just...
It's interesting the levels of influence that people have on you, especially just by a handshake. Yeah, I like reading I'm reading Empire of the Summer Moon about the Comanche, which is very interesting. What kind of history do you like?
Just mostly biographies.
Really?
So similar, but that kind of stuff, like, I go back to the history of the railroads being built. That stuff, those are the kind of things that, I used to do a lot more reading of. Now I seem to spend most of my time chasing kids.
Are you an audiobook?
I tried.
I can't do
it.
I can't even do it when I get on the iPad.
Yeah, and then now, by the time I get to reading, it's like 9:30 at night, and I get like 3 pages in, and it's like, I'm done.
But at least you feel good about it.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah, at least you feel a bit good. So what's more stressful, your corporate job or your public job?
I think, so it comes in waves.
Right.
It comes in waves. I think the corporate probably right now wins by 10, 20-fold. But it has ways like, with the fire department, at one point the way these organizations were set up moons ago was it's a taxing entity that has a 501c working for it, and that's the volunteer fire department.
Yeah.
Well, as you go from a rural community to basically a city the size of Denver, which what Cypress is going to be.
Oh, wow.
And you don't understand the scale of Houston until you put it into perspective, like that.
Hey, this little portion of Houston's going to be the size of the major city.
Feel like, Cypress, that's where the outlet mall is. That's what people
it's
think.
Denver, buddy.
Yeah. Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting there, going through all of those things, and so you're like, okay, I got to make a change, and we have to have full-time firefighters. We can't just borrow guys on their days off. It's nothing against the volunteers. We want as many volunteers as we can have because they're part of the community, but we got to have, people expect that when they call a fire station that there's somebody on the fire truck.
Right.
And now there's always been somebody on the ambulance out there. That's always been, full-time people.
Right.
But the only way to get fire department full-time guys to come over to start working for us is a pension. And the way to get a pension is to be a government entity, to be a part of it. So we had to take over the fire department, which is delicate because we're basically saying, hey, we're going to take all of the assets we bought, all the people, bring it on over, and we don't need you guys anymore. And
well, that's managing it right there.
And there's 45, 50 years of of history, and respecting that history, and say, guys, we're not doing this because we think we can do a better job. We're doing this because we have a necessity that we have to take it over. So we brought everybody with them, all the command staff, all the people, and what was even crazier was one of the things they wanted me to run on was to prevent that from happening.
Oh.
Because they were afraid that, some people would come on board and they would do it in a way that was malicious.
Yeah.
And not that was going to happen, but that was the biggest fear, is they wanted somebody to run it from a business that had trust.
But again, that's one of those things about communication.
Yep.
You have to communicate to people, kind of internal and external customers. Otherwise, you're going to get backlash. You get people digging their heels in and closing their camps.
Yeah, and so we managed to move everybody over. We bought all our stuff that was titled differently than the fire department. It was a year-long process, and that was stressful just because I don't want to be known as the guy who started a friggin' war between the fire department and the taxi entity, because it's happened. It's actually happening right now.
Especially if your whole platform was that you weren't going to do
exactly,
that.
yeah. So it was, but we did it the right way, it went well, and then to the credit of the people who were really doing it, like the command staff and the board of the volunteer fire department, they were in the middle of it. They did it seamlessly, and so the community had no idea.
Okay.
They're like, oh, they changed the name. It's not the volunteer, it's just the fire department now.
Which is probably a good...
Which is the way you want it to happen. You want to just wake up one morning and be like,
oh, okay, it's a little bit different.
They got a different logo on their truck when my house was burning down.
Cool.
But they showed up on time.
Cool, it's updated.
Yeah. Cool. It's just marketing. It's nothing to do with it. But, and then we have a great, just like everything, it's our message. Why would you want to come work in Cypress? Well, it's a great place to live. It's brand new equipment. It's not breaking down. Yeah, you got everything you need. Tons of firefighters from other areas lived in Cypress and were driving to their jobs. So it was just lots of parallels in the business world to the politics world.
No, that's interesting. I don't think we've ever had an elected official in here.
My first podcast.
Well, I like this. Yeah. Now I wish you were, a little more prepped about this. I guess kind of wrapping up, and we're kind of coming upon an hour. I guess wrapping up here. With everything going on, obviously, trade shows and conferences, even, I guess where are you finding more of a bang for your buck in any source of, media stream, or I guess where's the focus on the communication? Is it social media platforms? Is it print? Is it industry papers?
I think it's the social media, but nothing tops giving a good salesperson a bunch of good material to go sell.
Right.
Like if I can give them the tools, on the marketing side, if I can get the marketing, side of this to work, and then hand it over to the sales side of my job and say, hey guys, go do it. You got a great message.
Yeah.
So prepare them with their message and go. You're never going to be that relationship a salesman has with the customer. That's you can say it all you want, but no one wants to buy something in the oil field unless they know that if they pick up the phone, that guy's going to be the person, or that gal's going to be the person.
I remember in 2015, 2016, there was a couple companies out there that tried to remove the relationship side of things, and it kind of worked for about 6 to 8 months, and then finally, once things kind of happened, on location, they were calling and they couldn't get anyone, and so therefore it's like, no, relationships. It's not that relationships matter because we like working with who we like working with. Relationships matter because relationships can pick you up over that obstacle and kind of carry you through it in the right way.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, you can't be a waiter. That's
No.
what I was doing. You can't be a waiter. Okay, give me your price. I'll give your price back.
Yeah.
Boom. You got, it's a cycle. You know, you sell the product, you support the product, you got to give them the tools to support it. Every job's going to go south at some point.
Yep.
How do you handle it? Sell me the new stuff. Just build that cycle up, and it gets easier every time you go around that circle. And I think that's, at the end of the day, having the sales staff that can go do it is the way you're always going to win. So training that staff, hiring great people, putting people like me into sales that they've never even thought about doing sales. I mean, at Schlumberger,
But then again, you have the MBA, but you also have the operational knowledge to understand. Okay, well, no one wants to see these, bright, flashy colors if it's not communicating anything. Like the operational side, I know what the customers want to see.
but it's a unique, depending on where you grew up in the oil field or where you started. Schlumberger was, they viewed sales as a place where people went who couldn't cut it in ops.
Oh, okay.
So, lots of companies have different views of
Yeah.
sales. So, for me, sales has always been some of the best folks. And you don't have to be, like, a good salesman can sell anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a wireline guy, and I talk more frac than I do anything else right now. So
Right.
we've hired folks from all kinds of different backgrounds to come and be salesmen and sell something they never sold. It's the relationship, knowing how to do that, being available when the customer needs you, and then just being smart enough to adapt and learn something. And most of the time, those folks enjoy it because it's something new. Like, we all don't want to be selling the same widgets for the rest of our life.
Right.
It's,
Oh, well, that you get very stagnant.
Yeah.
And then you become like an account manager with 3 accounts.
yeah.
And that happens a lot.
And then you wake up one day and you're like, oh, what happened?
But that's the thing about relationships too. I mean, we were my wife and I were in Fredericksburg with a customer and his wife, and and she's like, well, what happens when things go wrong? Like, I'm like, well, that's the whole point. I mean, it's oil field.
Yeah.
Shit happens all the time. Things go
100%.
south all the time. It could be with your best customer, your best friend, but it's that relationship that they know you're there to rectify that situation
Yep.
and handle it properly. They'll call you at 2 a.m. in the morning to pick up.
Yeah, but you better pick up.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I know it drives my wife nuts because my phone will start, it doesn't blink as much as it used to, but at 2 in the morning, I'll at least be involved
Yeah.
with the text strings. No, I don't get the oh my God, I'm having problem calls like I used to. But back in the day I used to. But you still got to be there no matter what job you're in.
That's relationships. As you were talking about, that circle. It's you sell it, you stay on top of it, you follow up, and you stay with that person, even if they have nothing going on.
I mean, those guys I used to sell to and gals in 2012 and 2014 where I was a direct salesman, they know probably if they call me at 2 in the morning right now, I'll pick up the phone.
Right.
Like, they know it's going to get picked up, and that's never going to change.
Yeah.
Whatever job I'm in, I mean, you've got to be, especially in this industry. And, I remember, to end it on a funny note, I remember, walking down New Orleans with my dad's 50th or 60th, and my phone wouldn't stop going off, going insane, and somebody was giving me hell about it, and my wife jumped over, that pays for my kids this and that, that's part of his job. And I was like,
thanks for the support, man.
She gets it, right? Like, she totally supports it and does it.
Yeah.
And that's the other part of all this. Without her, without my kids, I mean, it makes it worthwhile, right? You need that other part of your life. Like,
Yeah,
you got to have.
You need that. You need that kind of centerpiece.
Yeah.
Why you do it.
Yeah, I mean, and without her, I'd be nothing, and without my kids, I wouldn't have a direction. It's 100% the way. Hope we're all right.
Well, to piggyback off of that, in case my wife's listening, I couldn't be successful without my wife or my child. So yes, okay. So yeah, I agree with about that.
Yeah. So happy early birthday to my wife. Tomorrow's her birthday.
Hey,
so there you go.
all right.
I don't know when this is going to air, but it's documented forever.
It'll be a little bit after, but tell her to tune in to 58 minutes 23 seconds for the early birthday wish.
Yeah. So.
Any special plans?
No, we're probably driving kids to dance, and so that's how birthdays go now.
Just another day in the oil field.
I'm just happy she's taking the pressure off, and I finally gave up this year, and I said, okay, I'm gonna ask her what she wants, and she's like, I already ordered it. So I was like, please,
Perfect.
Thank you.
Just make it from me.
Yeah, we're 15 years in, we figured this system out.
Make
I'm
it
happy.
from me.
Yeah, just you got what you wanted, so it's a win.
All right, well, make sure you tell her happy birthday.
I will do that.
And Tommy, thanks for coming in, man. I really appreciate
awesome,
it. I enjoyed this, dude. And
Yeah.
I'd love to have you back on again
I'd
sometime.
love to. I mean, my second podcast will be with you, I promise.
I kind of doubt that. Okay. All right. Anyway, if anyone has any questions for Tommy or myself, you can reach us at roundtherotary at cap-petro.com. Again, it's roundtherotary at cap-petro.com. Tommy, I appreciate it, man. I really enjoyed this.
This was awesome.
All right, buddy. We'll be talking to you soon.
Take care.